Hello, welcome to SC2 UK. I am Chris Roxor Dixon. I'm just doing a bit of a commentary on a game I played very recently. I'm starting the game on the 4.5 minute mark. As you can probably see, a loon in the bottom right hand corner, me in the bottom left, top left even. And I'm going for what I've been using recently, which is like a 3 racks build with Marauders. I've been using this a lot against Terror and a factory. The reason I'm showing this game is I'm showing it for a few reasons really. One, to show how bad I am at playing this game. Two, to show what not to do if you get a drop in your base. And three, to show something that, a little tactic that I thought up myself at the end that I was quite pleased with. Didn't copy it off anybody else. And I think it might be an original approach. Don't know. If it's not an original approach, I'm sure I'll get 200 comments on YouTube saying that it's not. But if it is an original approach and you're watching this, you might be able to use it in your play. So, as you can see, not a lot going on. Now, joking apart, I feel I've played quite well this game. You know, we're about 7.5 minutes in. As you can see here by the units, I'm keeping my resources small. Aloon's keeping his resources quite high. I'm macroing quite well. I'm building from all 3 barracks pretty much. Got my tank coming. I'm down. You know, to keep my resources level at around that level is quite good for me, and certainly quite good at my level. And just slowing this down a bit, I get a nice thing. I get tank with siege, and I think, you know what? I've scanned him and I've realised he's got the expansion, and therefore I use a 1 base play. I'll take the logic that surely, if my opponent has built an expansion, surely I must have a bigger army. Okay, now that might sound a bit simplistic, but you know what? If I'm doing 3 racks, a factory, and getting out of starport, and I've got pretty good saturation on my base, although I should still be building SCVs and I'm not, I have to have a bigger army. And sure enough, you can see there 51 to 45, not as good as I would have hoped, but if we do control A, which is a bit better, you will see that my army supply is effectively doubles than a loon's, and it's a really simple process. But if you see your opponent building an expansion, certainly if you're doing a Terran versus Terran, then the logic is that it might just mean if you have 1 base and you'll have a bigger army. So love this new map, map from the ladder. My tank decides to do an absolutely brilliant around the clock because of the misclick, but luckily I managed to salvage the situation on 13 HP. Now you'll also notice that I'm using rally points to my units, which is something that I'm doing, so I don't have to be looking, so I can keep hitting, you know, AAA for Marines if needed. And then as you can see there, my barracks are doing a very good job, and I'm building a tank, and I'm building not another starport, using the height of the starport there to sorry, the starport, the medivac, to get sight of that thing. Have shut down his 2nd expansion, and now looking very nice on 52 to 28 supply. So now, interesting tactic here. Loon loads up his entire army, which I miss brilliantly, and he decides to take his medvac with 8 Marines and drops into my base. But you know what? I don't care, because I think I've won this game at this point. Why wouldn't I think I've won this game at this point? He gets a couple of Vikings out, but I use my scan so I can still detect the high ground. Loon's got a thing, and you know what? I look at that. I didn't realise he'd done the drop, admittedly, but I start to move my units onto the ground because I've lost all my air, of course, and I've got sight, and really I'm messing about too much. Now, meanwhile, Loon has flown his nice little medvac with his nice little 8 nice little Marines, and he's very kindly dropping them in my base, which is very nicely macroing my army, which you will see that is trailing all the way down here like the yellow brick road. Now, the slight problem here with macroing well is that every time you're building units, they're automatically joining your army, and all of a sudden I'm pulling my SCVs away and I'm changing the waypoints there onto here, because I'm thinking that's alright, I'm just going to build units in my base and kill it. But there's a problem, and that problem is I only have 45 units, 45 minerals. and I didn't notice I had 45 minerals. So just to stop the game here, this is what you call a cock up, okay? And people watching this will have done the same thing, but I don't care that he's killing my planetary. I've still got all my SCVs, I've got a much bigger army than him, and you know what? He can have it. But if you don't have obviously 400 minerals to build another planetary fortress, then there is no function in the game of an auction house. You can't sell your units, you can't offer yourself as a male prostitute. There is no way of making money unless you have an orbital command to take your little SCVs to with their minerals. So Genius Roxor, as per usual, cocks it up and loses his orbital command. Meanwhile, having noticed that he's got no army down here, I start to wander in with my huge army and, you know, basically annihilate him, which is fine. And now I, at this point, have not realised yet what I have done. I am still in the thing, and as you can see, I managed to get a little force rally back here, killed all these marines, and I'm thinking I'll just build another orbital command until, of course, I realise that I've got no things. Now, it's flashed up the screen that I'm being revealed, going into his base, and I now realise that I am effectively all in. I've got double the army he has. I'm nuking him. I'm going to speed this up now, and the rest is pretty boring. Of course, my opponent, recognising that I'm an idiot, has then built there. He's now starting to build here because he knows that as long as he can hold out for as long as possible, then he's going to be in pretty good shape. Now I take out this base here. Should have probably gone back there, but it doesn't really matter. I put a tank here and I shot it using the height, but nothing really that you're going to learn from that. And he now builds his base here. And the problem with these big maps is you spend the entire time chasing around to find out where they've built. And I'm a big fan of big maps. Don't get big maps. I'm a big fan of them as well. Big maps, M-A-P-S. But you know what? In this situation, they are a pain in the arse. Now, I think later on, I'll just speed it up a bit, I send SCVs out because, let's be fair now, they can't do anything else, to pretty much every location on the map. I'm not quite sure why he's building a barracks there, but I think he's thinking that if he can get a foothold. Now, his army supply is 839, and I really, really hate these games where you're caught out of position and you have a situation where basically, because you didn't leave enough defence in your base, then you could lose the game. Now he's building buildings everywhere. I mean, how many times have you been in a game where you've seen this at this kind of level? And it is just so painful. So I'm now spending my entire time. There they are. They're the little SCVs. One there, one there, one there. And you know what? I actually think that was quite an intelligent thing to use my SCVs for, because at least it's stopping him doing it. And you know what? To use a bit of insurance for myself, I'm flying a building in the top right hand corner. So, what have we learnt from this game? 1. Good macro. 2. Scout your opponent, see if he's building a second expansion. You've slightly got a bigger army. 3. Watch out for drops in your base. 4. If they do drop in your base, please ensure that you've got enough minerals to build another one. And 5. Players are really, really irritating on big maps. So those are the 5 learning points up until this point. Speeding this through, this is probably the bit where I really wanted to show you. I'm now doing an all-in, as you can see, getting all my SCVs together. And the biggest problem is, when I spot this planetary fortress, I think I'm dead, because he's got a lot of SCVs, he's got a lot of minerals. Okay, he's got a few minerals, but he's got enough to repair it. And this is what I decide to do, because I am worried that planetary fortress is going to blow me to bits. And although, I mean, if you look at my army as well here at this point, just to see, you know, low, 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 missing an arm, missing a leg. You know, my army is not in good shape. And the reason it's not in good shape is because I've been using stim. And the biggest problem with stim, like any drug, is that if you have nothing to heal yourself with while using it, then the chances are your army becomes slightly knackered, which is what's happened to me here. So I want something to meat shield the planetary fortress. Now, I've never seen this done before, and it was thought of really in a panic. But I thought, what would happen if I was to drop a barracks in front of the planetary fortress? Would it shoot the barracks? Would it cause any threat? Would it deflect from shooting my army? How would it rate in the overall threat monitor of StarCraft 2? Would it be an advantage to do that to protect my SCVs and my army? So, bearing in mind this is effectively going to decide the game, I go for it. And I'll let you decide the results. Drop. And as you can see, it's getting pounded. And it's taking off nearly 44. But while it's doing that, it is still shooting, or it was still shooting, the barracks. Okay? Now, I don't know if you've noticed. Now, I'm going to play this back again, just so you can know, just to prove my point, if you like. But I generally think that this is quite interesting. I think this is a useful thing to do. So look, barracks goes down, shoot, and it's doing a lot of damage to that barracks. Army comes in, it is still shooting the barracks. 1, 2, 3, and only then does it switch target to the SCV on the left, dead. And I go on to win the game. So, just a little short one from Roxor Chris, but if you ever end up being a complete muppet and you lose your planetary fortress and do an all-in, and your opponent is Terran and he's building a planetary fortress, the moral of the story is land a barracks in front of it, because that way it will shoot the barracks and won't shoot your army. Thank you ever so much. This is SC2 UK wishing you good gaming.